Hey there everybody, my name is Kat Bowser. I'm your resident fantasy therapist and welcome back to my channel. Those of you here for the first time, welcome. My name is Kat Bowser. I'm a licensed therapist. I'm also a writer working on my first two novels, one a standalone, one the start of a series. And on my channel I like to talk about what I consider to be the heart of all writing. That's the characters. And the heart of the characters is their psychology. So that's the angle I like to take with pretty much everything I talk about on my channel. So this video was actually supposed to go up yesterday, but it got delayed to today for two reasons. One, Michele Quirke, who we are celebrating all week because she had her debut novel, Fires of Treason, come out yesterday, had a launch party yesterday, and I didn't want to take time away from that. And two, when I went to start editing this video late yesterday to get it up hopefully by at the end of the launch party, I found that none of the audio was in sync, which is awesome. So that's why you guys are getting it a little late. So I apologize for that, but you know, that's how it is. So if you guys hear any grunting, there is a small animal next to me sleeping. So that will be her trying to get some kind of attention. So today I am doing the last video in what I've been calling my week of fire, and that is Michele was kind enough to do an interview with me regarding her Fires of Treason book that has just come out, and she has told me she's working on the sequel, which makes me very, very happy. So I basically asked her a series of 10 questions and she responded to me, so I will be reading them out for you guys as well as putting them on the screen. Unfortunately, I wish I could have done a video interview, but my technology lacks at the moment, so I'm hoping we can do that sometime in the future. So that being said, let's just jump right into it. The first question I asked her, what prompted you to write The Fires of Treason? And Michele's response was, I've always loved sibling stories, but there is an extreme shortage of them nowadays. I decided to write the kind of book I was looking for, and if other people need the same thing, then that is a wonderful bonus. I think that's my favorite part of Fires of Treason, is the sibling bond. Because she's right, there really isn't a lot of focus on siblings in stories. There's focus on friends, there's focus on found family, there's romantic stuff all over the place. Siblings, not so much. So I really enjoyed the fact that she put in the sibling relationship and that the sibling relationship was realistic, which is always a nice bonus. Second question I asked her was, what is your favorite aspect of your story that you hope other people will be drawn to? And Michele responds with, to me, the relationship between Gregory and Elizabeth is my favorite aspect of the story. They have their differences and don't always get along, but at the end of the day, they are always supportive of one another. Well, I think you definitely succeeded in that, Michele. Like I said, the realism of the relationship between Gregory and Elizabeth is easily my absolute favorite part of this story. For those of you that don't know, when I was in my grad school for my counseling degree, I actually focused a lot on siblings as a specific course of study because I thought it was fascinating. And there is so much stuff in sibling relationships that doesn't usually get delved into in stories, and especially if you're talking about siblings in a situation like Gregory and Elizabeth are. But I really think she nails the aspects of a sibling relationship, both the love, the camaraderie, but also the rivalry. And any of you that have a sibling, you know, you get on each other's nerves. It's just naturally going to happen no matter how much you love each other. When I was growing up, we actually had what we called a sibling rule, which was basically, I'm allowed to pick on my sibling. I'm allowed to tease them. I'm even allowed to physically hurt them to a small degree, but nobody else is. And I really think that is reflected very well here. Question number 3, I asked her, what was the easiest aspect of writing Fires of Treason? And her response was, to be honest, dialogue has always been the easiest aspect of writing for me. It's my favorite as well and is a great way to help readers get to know the characters. It's one thing for me to tell you Elizabeth is loyal, but it means more when you can read it for yourself and the way she talks. That's a really good point. Dialogue, I think dialogue is one of those things where you're either really good at it or you really struggle with it. I think the dialogue in Fires of Treason is really well done because if I were to take away the character names, I would still know who was talking. because they all have a very distinct personality and a very distinct word choice that they use. And I think that really helps to make your story more well-rounded. Number 4, what was the hardest aspect of writing Fires of Treason? And Michele responds, for me, it's hard to rein in the details about clothing, setting, etc. I had to delete so much unnecessary info during editing. Thanks to lots of advice and feedback from my critique partner, I think I managed to find a balance that paints a picture in the reader's mind yet doesn't bore them. This is a really good point, and I think it's really important if you're writing like historical fantasy, historical fiction, because I mean, there are aspects of those time periods that we find fascinating because we don't see them now. I think when I was a kid, I was fascinated with royal life, all the balls and the fancy dresses and all that stuff. And so I loved to learn about it. And I think a good amount of that is important in a story, but Michele's right. You can't put too much in there because you only need so much. It's kind of like, I look at it as you want enough that the reader can see what you're talking about, but you don't want enough that they can see the fly next to the cake, because that's not important. That's not relevant. So I think she strikes a pretty good balance. I feel like there's enough detail in the important scenes, like particularly when we're talking about like scenes with the royalty that have very distinct details, and scenes with the lower class, which have very distinct details, and the contrast. I think she does a very good job with using contrast to give you the details you need without necessarily going overboard. Number 5, is there a particular side character you really enjoyed writing? She says, Mary was super fun to write, and so was Clara. Now, if you guys haven't read the book, I'm not going to go into detail on these 2 characters except to say, yeah, they're both a lot of fun. I particularly enjoy Mary. Clara makes me laugh. 6, what would you consider the strongest theme of Fires of Treason? Michele responds, now that's a good question. I think I'd have to say the strongest theme is the importance of love and family. Without love, we are lost. I really like this. I think themes in stories, in my experience, if you write the theme first and then the story, you can usually tell. But if you write the story and the theme just kind of naturally comes out through the story, it tends to work a whole lot better. I'm always a big fan anytime love is a strong factor in stories, whether it be familial love, romantic love, friend love, whatever, because I really think it is important. When I was younger, I used to call love the universal rationalizer, in that basically you can do anything for love, and even though it doesn't necessarily make what you do right, it explains it. And that's why I really love when love is a central theme of a story. Number 7, what is your favorite aspect of your world and why? Michele responds, I'm going to say the time period I set it in. The 16th century is so interesting to research. I've spent many late nights researching a single piece of information, often which never even makes it into one book. There's just so much to learn, and I love it. Research is fun. I think sometimes we get caught up in research, which is kind of what she's describing, where you just get so caught up and you start looking up all these details before you realize, wait, am I even going to use this detail? But I always think that's kind of good, because you're expanding your knowledge. And even if you don't end up using it in your book, I think any time that you expand your knowledge base is a good thing. All right, number 8, can you share a little bit about your writing process? Michele responds with, well, I edit as I go. I know that method doesn't work for everyone, but personally I can't bring myself to move to the next scene until the one I'm working on is as close to perfect as possible. For the Fires of Treason, it took me over a year to write the rough draft. Mind you, it would have been faster if I could have dedicated more time to it, but my son is young and he's my first priority. Once the rough draft was complete, I started working with my amazing critique partner, Jodie Jensen. She helped me so much. Next came beta readers, more tweaking, and finally, after many more rounds of self-edits, I was ready to hire a professional editor. For the sequel, I'm currently rewriting the first draft, so it'll be a little while before it's ready to be seen by anyone. I am so envious of people that can edit as they go. I can do it somewhat, but I think I get caught up in just edits and edits and edits, and then I don't move on. So, but think it's important to realize everybody has their own writing style and their own editing style. So some people it's editing as they go. Some people it's going through the whole thing, then you go back and you edit. Some people it's kind of half and half, and I kind of think I'm falling into the half and half mark, because I'll edit very large, important scenes, but little things I'll just mark and I'll go back to them. So I think it's really important to just remember, you have to figure out what your style is. And just because someone else can edit as they go or cannot edit as they go does not mean it necessarily applies to you. Number 9, what about being a published writer surprised you? And Michelle responds with, I think I'd have to say I'm surprised at how straightforward it was. A year ago, the thought of publishing seemed overwhelming, and I got stressed out just thinking about it. There is so much that needs to be done in order to publish a book, so many steps that readers wouldn't even think about. But it's not as stressful as I thought it would be. Of course, I had a lot of help from my friends in the Twitter writing community. There are at least 4 other published writers who I would turn to whenever I hit a bump in the road and didn't know what to do. Without them, I never could have done this. I think this is really important because I think it's very easy to get overwhelmed. I know for myself, when I first started this journey, and I'm still on it, it really does seem overwhelming. It's like, how am I ever going to get to this point? How am I ever going to finish this? And there's actually, I personally use a technique that we use in counseling, and that you break up your goals into shorter goals. So you might have an end goal of publish a book, but then you would break it up into, okay, get an editor, get this, get that. And then you can break it up as small as you want it to. So I find that really works for me, because then you're not so focused on your long-term goal, even though it's there. You're focused on what's coming directly next. And I think that is very helpful, because sometimes we look at the big long goal and it seems unreachable. But if you look at something that's just 10 feet in front of you, that's achievable. So, you know, you guys have to explore what works for you. But I think that technique has been helpful for me. Last question. What can we look forward to seeing from you in the future? The Fires of Treason is the first in a series. I'm currently working on the rewrite of the sequel, which is a lot of fun. Unfortunately, I don't have as much time to write now that my son's school has become remote. That said, I try to find time when I can. I look forward to sharing the second book in Gregory and Elizabeth's journey with everyone. I'm looking forward to it. I really love how the first book, it tells its story and it wraps up the loose ends, but it leaves enough that you can follow these characters for longer. And I love it when series do that. So I will be looking forward to seeing the next book whenever you get it out, Michelle. So thank you for doing this interview with me. And I hope your launch party was a success. And I hope that people will continue to check out your book. As always, I'm linking it below. So if you guys have been chiming along for this week and you think the book sounds like something you'd be interested in, make sure you follow the link and check it out for yourself. So thank you guys for chiming in for this video. As always, if you have comments or suggestions, feel free to leave them below. I'll get to them as soon as I can. And if you don't want to miss when I upload, make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so that you get notified whenever a new video goes up. I'll be going back to my regular schedule, which is 2 videos a week, once at the beginning of the week, once at the end of the week. And if you guys have any topics you want me to address, let me know. I have a list that people have suggested that I'm slowly working my way through, but I always welcome new ones. So until next time, thank you guys for chiming in. Have a good one.